Hey Joe, how you doing?
Good.
Come on in.
Terry.
Joel,
Hi. How are you?
Good evening, everyone.
I'll do that
First.
No, the agenda.
Yeah, perfect. Yep.
There is another Joel Yeager in the area. He actually has the same middle initial as me, and I met him one time at Holiday Automotive. He applied at the city of Fond du Lac for a police department job the same time I did, and they put his application on top of mine, so I didn't get to apply for the city of Fond du Lac.
So you can have a seat wherever you'd like, Joel. We're gonna go through a few things first and we'll put you right up to the front as soon as we can get through those other components first.
Awesome. All right. We're back in open session. One item I'd like to start with is an addition to an agenda item. Based on just a clerical error on not adding it to our new business. We do have to discuss and consider a new hire recommendation that came through during closed session. So just gonna look for the board to vote if they're okay to add that to our new business. So I would look for a motion for that.
I'll make the motion.
Second. All right, and then roll call on adding that extra item to our new business for today's meeting.
All right, Hawk?
Yes.
Humker?
Yes.
Geckerman?
Yes.
Matthew?
Yes.
Yeager? Yes.
All right. Our next item is board mission statement and agreements.
So our mission statement is we will develop policy that is representative of our community, set goals, and lead our district by collaborating. I just want to make a point is like, we've got all these pictures of students in here. We do this work for our kids. You know, this is like amazing. We are unbelievable. We've got that. But we always keep that in mind when we're making our decisions as well. The beliefs or the agreements, stand up and own it, is really about when we're in here, we give our, most respectful, best foot forward and really deliver what we can to learn and grow together. That we are one is that we need each other to make that happen. It can't be a sole thing that we do it alone. And then finally, the courage to grow is like really being open for new learning and questioning and understanding so that we can get better together.
All right, excellent, thank you. Our next item is consent agenda. So approval, what's on our consent agenda, 4 items. Approval of regular board meeting minutes from June 24th meeting, 2024. Approval of our policy committee meeting minutes from June 25th, 2024. And then approval of our special board meeting minutes from July 10th, 2024. And then also our treasurer's report, all of which were in our packets to review prior to the session. So just looking for a motion to approve our consent agenda.
So moved.
I'll second. Then I roll.
Yeager, yes. Geckerman?
Yes.
Hawk?
Yes.
Humker?
Yes.
Matthew? Yes.
All right, our next item is board member share moment of pride. So I don't know if anyone would like to go first. All right, Steve.
Yeah, it being a quiet month in July and not been around for much, I did want to mention one thing though, that with our educators and other areas of support staff, and that we have retirements and we take note and we do things. And this just recently, Bonnie Dieter retired from the district office, which is a separate grouping, I guess. And she would not like me to be mentioning this, and she's a friend, of course, but she gave many years of dedicated service, was excellent at what she did. And if you know Bonnie, she's one of those people that you just feel good when you're around her. She just makes you feel good. And so she's off to other things already. She's got grandkids that she's excited to be spending time with. And I just wanted to make note of that.
Awesome, thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
Jacob.
You know what? I can just say I'm proud to drive past the garage door that's open up for strength and conditioning every morning and see a bunch of kids in there working out. And one of them's my son, so I'm happy to have that going on. So that's good to see the facilities being used and some energy in that area. So.
And that's actually what I was going to bring up. I think that strength and conditioning program is really taking off and getting a lot of participation. A lot of kids not missing days. And So it's a great start to our program.
Awesome. Yeah, I had weight training and conditioning as well, but I also.
We're getting strong here, I love it, yeah.
And this is a good time because Matt just passed out some pictures from the building referendum. And I mean, you can't even tell, it looks like a brand new school, the whole thing, right? So, and not only the commitment from the community to continue to give back, to keep our facilities right, but I'm gonna give Dave some more love as long as he's still here. So he's done an amazing job, and you all know that, kind of him and his team keeping that on track in partnership with the administration and on top of their day job. So just really proud of what that's gonna look like on, was it August 21st, the kickoff day?
August 21st is the open house, yes,
Very cool.
yeah, absolutely.
So it's funny, but I had the same thing in mind. Because it was a slow month, so I'm just gonna mention that it's good to see the signs outside about our free lunches and meals that are given out to those that are less fortunate in our area. So it's really heartwarming to see that. So I just wanted to mention that.
Awesome. All right, clerk's report is our next item, so.
All right.
Terry, you
That's
wanna go
also a short one. We had a donation to Backpack Buddies from Wayne and Janice Shingen for $50. And that is it for the clerk's report.
Well, we appreciate that donation. Our next item is citizens' comments. There's no one in the room, so I'm not here to talk or introduce themselves, but I will open if anyone would like to share any comments. All right, we'll move on to superintendent's report.
Great, thank you. We have 4 different buckets that we really share out this news. We have learning and academics, engagement and communication, financial operations, safe and emotional healthy schools, and then we really try to tie what some of those events that are going on so you all have a good understanding of what's going on. I am very excited and happy to share that we were, the school district as well as the Village Police Department were part of looking at a new school resource officer for our district, K-12. As you know, Officer Sean Hendricks is moving on to another position, moving up in the world there. I want to first say thank him for all his service. He couldn't be here tonight, but just really appreciative of what he's given back for numerous years in our district. I mean, you just look around and I get to see him really participate with all of our kids at the elementary level, to the high school, to the middle school. And you could tell that he had built some really solid relationships, but at the same time, keeping our buildings safe as well. So a big shout out to Sean and Officer Hendricks there for all the work that he's given back to North Fond du Lac. At the same time, we are super excited for Officer Joel Yeager to come into our schools, and we got to sit down with him for a while, just about a week ago, or yeah, it feels like it's longer than that, but just learning about him, and I'm gonna have him just share a little bit about yourself and, you know, kind of what you've been doing and maybe, you know, why you're excited about coming into this position.
Sure, I actually didn't have any intention of being in law enforcement when I was growing up. I really wanted to be a pastor when I was little, and that route didn't really work, but I ended up working at a school for at-risk teens, kind of like a Rawhide, but it was a residential school. Rose through the ranks there pretty quickly. Was a program coordinator working with parents, kids, and the counselors to come up with an individual care plans for each individual kid to kind of turn them onto the straight and narrow. So that's kind of, I thought I was going to do that for the rest of my life, but the economy had other things in mind. My wife was 6 months pregnant and my position was eliminated for budget reasons. And so then I had worked corrections a little bit in college, juvenile corrections. So I started in law enforcement. I worked for the Winnebago County Sheriff's Office for 8 years in the jail, but I was also on the hostage negotiator team and the tactical response team. Lots of training in mental health with those types of positions. And then just saw an opportunity at North Fond du Lac. So I've been a police officer here for about 6 years, and I absolutely love it. This is the kind of police department that I want to be in, getting to know the community, engaging with the community, you know, stopping at the baseball games and watching the kids play and interact with them, and stopping at sporting events for the high school when I can. So just really being able to be a part of the community, and that's what I really enjoy. So working with kids is something I miss, and so I'm just grateful for this opportunity. I can't wait to get started and get going for the school year. And I've got big shoes to fill, I know, but I'm confident that I can work well and be a positive role model for the kids.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah, sounds like a great background, a great fit, so look forward to it.
Yeah, look forward to having you in that role.
Any questions? Yeah.
I have in a dual role, I don't know if you recognize my name, but I'm on the Police and Fire Commission too, so I was at the meeting and we accepted or approved Sean's promotion. And he said that you're gonna be working, or Sean's gonna not disappear, he's gonna be working with you and being in the school for a while as you progress and grow.
Yeah, he's gonna mentor me and help the transition go a little more smoothly, so.
Nice.
Sounds like a great plan.
And we get to, in just a couple of weeks, is we sit down with our principals and Officer Yeager and just talk about like, okay, how do we make that transition best for him, as well as what that looks like, so we can support him moving forward here within our schools. And like Rick said, I was super excited about his background and your background, excuse me, I'm talking for a person here. And I mean, it's such an important part of this position, and I've been fortunate to work with school resource officers for over 20 years, and it really is an integral part of the system, but that relationship building with our students so they understand who you are, yet at the same time, creating that safe environment, yet where they can come to you or others when there are needs that have to be had. So I'm just really looking forward to working with you, and I know other principals as well as other leaders and teachers within our district are as well. So welcome, and we can't wait to work with you. So
I'm very excited too. Thank you very much.
Great, very cool. Any other questions? Perfect.
Appreciate you coming.
Yeah, thank you for coming in.
You're welcome to stay.
Yeah, you can stay for the rest.
It's my last off day. I gotta be back.
There you go. Enjoy your night. All right, thank you.
See you soon. Take care.
Welcome.
I'll just add into the safe and emotional healthy schools is, again, just that strength and conditioning. I'll just tell you, we've had really great numbers. We've been, from everywhere from 25 to 30 students for males, and then females the same. And they run like a 6 o'clock, they run an 8 o'clock, and they run a 10 or 10:30 to keep kids fluctuating. And that 10:30s are middle school. We probably have our biggest numbers at that time, anywhere from like 50 to 60 students. And then on Wednesdays, we bring in 4th and 5th graders who are also doing that. And I want to just make a big shout out to 3 coaches that are really doing some amazing work in there. Talon Ybarra, who's our PE teacher at the high school. Nate Hughes is a PE teacher at Bessie Allen. And Ryan Heath is our PE teacher and health teacher at the high school as well. So without people like that who are dedicated and want to, give back and just be there continuously and help and support, and making sure that what we're doing in that training is also the right training, so that they, students want to continue to do that. So they see that by putting the work in, it does pay off. It takes time though. It doesn't happen overnight. And I'm just really appreciative of all those players and everybody else making that happen. So just a shout out for them. The second part of the Safe and Emotional Healthy Schools is student and co-curricular handbooks. It was included in here. There's not a lot. I guess I'm just opening up for any kind of questions that you might have before looking at that in general, but just wondered if there was anything that you had more questions about before moving forward with that.
We'll be approving them next month?
Yes, next month then. We're like opening it up right now if there's any other kind of questions. Unfortunately, like our principals and, our Jillian can't be here tonight for our director of activities, but I didn't know if there's anything that stood out for you that you had more questions about that I can answer.
I would just compliment, I guess, with Julian who did the curricular. Having her mark up the changes and having that sheet at the end that documented the changes. That's awesome, and say, because we've read through them, different times. And you hate to go through trying to pick out just what changed. So the way she did it, documented, was just excellent. So, in the next few years, if we could get everybody to do that, that would be great.
Absolutely.
The only thing I had a question on was I saw, I can't find another, the elimination of the senior award plaque. I think I was just wondering if there's a discussion around that with the reason. Maybe it was explained later and I missed it, but so it's crossed out that thought I had it. So let's cross out that the award of the senior award plaques is, it must be taken, they're taking away the senior award plaques. It's on page 14.
Okay. Let's go there. It's in the code, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, right here.
Yep, right there.
Great question. I'd have to go back to Jillian and ask her specifically why. I think what was happening, at least at this given time, is looking at an athlete must complete at least 4 sports seasons in their 4 years. The athlete must completely free of athletic suspension at coach level, and the athlete must compete as a senior in the sport. The only thing I can guess is like, with all the other medals that are going on there, is instead of, adding one more thing is one of the things, but I'd have to check, Terry, to really let you know why. Yeah, but I can do that for you. The only other thing that I'd bring up, and this is, I think, a little bit more detailed in the high school, is, a stronger phone policy. I don't know if you got a chance to see that. And again, Rick, I acknowledge your point of like just editing. When we edit, we highlight so that you don't have to walk through all this, but I'm just making sure this is it. Yeah, so there's a little bit of a different changes that they're moving forward to in that. And I don't know if you got a chance to read this, but, just placing, we're getting, every single classroom is going to have couches, right? So that people can put their phones in, once they get going. The amount of disruptions that actually happen within a short period of time, in 45 minutes, I think it's over 150 different notifications that could happen on one single cell phone. And if that's happening every single 45 minutes, how is anybody supposed to actually engage in the learning? And so we're really trying to teach presence and saying, okay, how do we stay present for the moment that we're part of? And at the same time, learn that, okay, I can come back to that at another point and make sure that's answering. That immediacy of I have to answer this right away can hold off. Now, of course, there are emergencies, things do come up. And we're gonna also channel to families and parents too to say hey, can you help us out with this too by not texting your child during those times so that they too can say that I can just focus on that area. If there's an emergency or something that really comes up, parents can do the old school way of calling the office and saying, hey, I need to talk to my son or daughter, and please make that phone call. But this is a major transition. It's going to be a little bit of a different way of looking at things. But I think overall, when you look at learning and teaching presence and the research out there right now is extraordinary. If you get a chance to look into some of that, there's some amazing books that are just talking about how that actually affects brain and the development of children in general because of these platforms. Now, they're wonderful devices and great technologies. However, at the same time, they can also limit, our, development as individuals and adults. So just let you know, that'll be one of the bigger things. And I think just walking to it, Dwayne Hartkoff, the principal, is extremely backing this and support of this. And, obviously our staff has got to be on the same frame too, to make sure that we execute this on the regular. Any questions about that specifically?
So did I read that it's slightly different as you go from elementary to middle school to high school?
Right. In middle school, it's completely out of sight, out of mind, and it's got to be in the locker the whole time.
Yeah, okay.
So there's not
So the
phones at the
high school, okay.
So there's no phones at lunchtime or passing period for middle school. The phone is just out of sight, out of mind throughout that whole experience.
Okay.
High school, trying to meet a little bit acknowledging that you're going to have to maybe do that, from one thing to the next. And so during passing period and lunchtime are the only 2 times during the day that students have that chance to actually communicate or use their phones. If you've ever been in the high school, it's almost virtually impossible to communicate to anyone because the brick features of that building. I mean, you can't it's hard to make a call. Text messages do get out, but it's still difficult in that area to get some of those things out. But again, it's more about that presence and being part versus losing track of where they're at.
Yeah, was staff involved in the development of?
There was conversations last year, Steve, about okay, this is something that we were looking at. I think there's different, individuals who are very pro, like, okay, we need to do something about this. And there's also individuals like, okay, they're going to have them. They're just going to, make through it. But one of the big things is that we need everybody to be consistent and on the same page, because if you go from one class where it's, held to that responsibility, like putting the phones, and then you go to the next class and they're like using those, like just anything policy, if someone like gives on one of those areas, it doesn't, really help the whole thing about. So we have to really work with our staff and make sure we can support them as best we possibly can throughout this process too. Which, again, you got to understand that the phone is like the security blanket for a lot of students. And so you have to keep that in mind when having those conversations. But it's how you have that conversation, how you have that discussion is like, and showing some of those things, but also that idea of presence versus, I'm taking your phone is really the more important part. It's like, hey, we want you here. We're going to make you, we want you to be here so you get engaged in this area. And then we hope that you're engaged too when you're in this classroom during that time. Because obviously phones and other social media platforms and digital, there's a lot of competition between that and like being in a classroom, and how do you keep people engaged as much as that too is a whole nother, question that we have to really work through and walk through. Any other questions about that? I think that's one of the things that you might hear and that might be out there a little bit more than others, because there wasn't anything like this prior to this upcoming year within the high schools. It's interesting across the country. There's so many different things that are going on with that. Even to the extent that some schools have said, when you come into school, you're dropping your phone in a bucket or a box, and that's what it is. The rates of achievement in those schools have like gone up significantly because they completely eliminated them from the classrooms, which is really interesting in itself. So doing a case study on just how that changes the game is, I think, something we have to look at too, to share with others to make sure that they know the importance and the why behind what we're doing here. Any other questions about student or co-curricular handbooks at this point? And we'll come back in August and make both those through. So if there's any other questions up to that time, Terry, I'll find out about the senior class and get you some more information, and we'll get that through. All right, let's move up to the leadership retreat under learning and academics, and it kind of falls more in the leadership component. I just wanted to share a little bit. Some of the principals, a few of the principals and myself got to attend a leadership retreat last week in Port Washington, and this is just a quick breeze through of some of the learnings that were going on here, and just wanted to show you some of the things that are happening. This is just a little bit of the goal of the whole retreat itself, really to disrupt the norm, create a culture where complaining is an outlier and coaching is the norm, culture that recognizes the needs of people to learn and grow from each other in a safe and rapid manner, culture that recognizes that the world is constantly in motion and evolving, and we need to move with it, and that's that embracing change and productive discomfort. And then a culture that operates within the strengths of every individual. So the leader of this whole retreat was Ted Knightsky, sharing this out. He walked through that, and he brought in one guest lecturer the whole time, but overall it was mainly what he was sharing. He talked a little bit about opportunities for improvement, or OFIs as he calls them, just ways that you can identify within your culture how you can get better. What are some of those systems that might not be up to par? And we talked a lot about the written and unwritten rules in organizations. And many times we just assume people just know what's going on. So with that, people could really like be lost in the shuffle, and you could lose that feeling of value and those areas. And so like when you're talking about onboarding or, safety or supporting risk taking, you have to make sure that you're clear about what's going on in that area so that people feel that sense of belonging and they feel safe within it. So we identify like, what are some of those unwritten rules that we don't necessarily say, but we might want to talk about a little bit more. One example is emails. And this is something we got to communicate with the rest of our families too, and we will this upcoming August. As a staff, we really are under, once 6 o'clock hits at night, we're shutting those emails off, and then we're coming back at 7:30 in the morning again with that. noting that, hey, we're a business, we're an organization just like that. We should not be like answering those calls like at 10:30 at night or whatnot. Just respecting our teacher staff, our staff itself, and making sure that they're walking through it. At the time, we do feel that within 36 hours, we should be able to respond somehow, some way to the people that are reaching out to us. So those things are going to be more clear and clarified with our families, but also our staff as we're moving forward. That's one unwritten rule that you can talk about in great depth, but that was one of the things that we talked about for a little bit. So all the stuff, again, I think just to put it short is we're doing much of the things that were at this retreat, but it was just like, how can you just tweak them a little bit to make them, even better than what they are? It's not like we need to add a whole bunch of stuff after retreat. Many people come back from conferences, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, all this bright, shiny new stuff. And that's not how these retreats were working. It was really like, listen, learn, how can you tweak, make a little bit better, and what kind of commitment can you make to actually execute that next level? As he was saying in the goals, coaching and supporting, it talks about healthy eventing and then emotional dumping. And how do you distinguish between those two? We stress a culture of no BCD or blaming, complaining, defending. And because we feel that's like very much an energy suck and it doesn't really get to the solution finding. We do, believe though in some healthy venting. And if you look here, it's self-reflective, it's clearly focused on one issue. It's always got a solution. So even though you might be venting about it, you've got some kind of solution that can handle it too, versus just saying and complaining about one thing for someone who's open to feedback, accepts personal responsibility, and aware of the emotional states of the self and you, and then always looking for coaching and ideas. So again, supporting, cultures that we're already part of here in North Fond du Lac. This was an interesting thing too. I mean, we've done this too for quite some time, but they created this like dry erase board, kind of like you're doing in, coaching, and you're drawing out your play or set plays. What it had to do with is coaching up your staff and really specific to, hey, what's the single most important issue that you're facing right now? And then how do you coach as a leader in terms of like listening, collecting that information? You're not going to just give an immediate response. You're not even giving that response. You're trying to ask and facilitate questions that will get them to that final solution too as well, without you giving them all this information. And it becomes more relying on you versus them relying on themselves and really working it out. So bringing that all about in this like 4-step process. On the backside of this, it's like shows you like colleague versus coach. I use these 4 questions often with our leaders. So every single month we talk about this, what's the single most, challenging thing that's going on? And then we walk through like, how do you walk through this? And what are some things you're thinking about doing in terms of solutions for this? What are the resources that you need or resources that you have? How are you reflected on this? And then what is that, possible solution that you can go out and try to make happen? So really getting them to, be forward thinking and owning. This is about the standing up and owning it part of it, right? Versus just relying on someone else to like kind of answer those questions. And then we don't really get that leadership or that influence that's really necessary. We did a little bit of a strength activity. All of our leaders, our principals, our directors have done the Gallup strengths. We got our 5 top strengths. We got our 34 out of the 34 where they're at. And so Ted uses that quite a bit. And so we looked at our strengths again and just sharing what they were, but also then what are those bottom like 5? So at the bottom of that 34, what does that look like? And what are those blind spots that we really have to be aware of? So just, again, reflecting and how we can get better as leaders. Again, we do this too, blend, do, study, act. What are we doing? How are we getting there? What are the measures of success that we've done along the way? And then, assessing how we did at the end. Just, again, strategies that you can use again and again that we've used that really help us move forward. This is just an example at the end of the retreat. You sit down and this is what I love about this is like you're actually saying, okay, what am I going to do now? Ideas from the retreat and the to-dos. And then what will I do in those commitments area? And then what will we do together moving forward here? So just sharing, a couple things. And the things that I've listed here aren't like big grandiose things. there's simple things like, okay, how do we tweak the email process in our educator guide right now that might just be a little bit better for our folks? To, oh, do we need to look at our CSIP design that we give to the board every single month so it's cleaner and easier to read? Another thing that we're going to work on. So little tweaks that make us a little bit stronger each day with the work. So that's a little overview, everybody. It was Dwayne Hartkoff was able to be there, Jillian Gordon and Lauren Biolo were the principals that were able to attend. What they found from this too is that they'd like to bring other teacher leaders next year so that they can, walk through this, because this is the work that we're doing, and it only makes their whole organization a little bit stronger within it as well. Any questions about the retreat? All right. Let's keep moving on here. I know this is, under engagement and communications, that bucket, and I alluded this to in our weekly emails as well, that we're working with CISA 6 marketing planning team to start looking at ways that we can communicate and share what's going on within our district, everything from strategic plan work to things that are happening in the referendum. All right, so we're creating a newsletter. Next week is going to be the first draft of that. We're going to have 2 meetings, first on Monday and then on Thursday. We're going to try to finalize it as soon as we can, and then by August 7th, we're going to take that to print, and then it'll get to people's mailbox. Hopefully sending it out August 14th so we can get it middle of the week. And then that hits right before we get to that open house. People can see some of those things that are happening. We'll share some of that with y'all too, so you can see what some of the things that are going out, but super excited to work with them. They're also going to be part of our social media and marketing for the year or two, just promoting and sharing how we can do that and giving us little insights on things as we go through the full year. So excited to work with them. We use, and how we do that is that every single year, we put so much money into CISA 6 in terms of consulting, right? What CISA 6 does is they, through their Smart Thinking Foundation, they take a chunk of that money and they give it back to the schools. So it's almost like Kohl's Cash. I guess that's the easiest way to explain it. Like you spend a certain amount, they give you a certain amount back that you can use. How you use that dollar though is you got to do something new, something that you haven't used before, that you can then try out or test drive. We've never done any marketing with CISA 6. We're using a lot of those dollars this year that we have towards that. So we're not using more dollars to spend on CISA 6 marketing. We're using the stuff that we've already spent in terms of consulting fees that we've already taken part of in the last year. Okay. Any other questions with CISA 6?
The distribution for the newsletter, is that like everyone in the?
It's everyone in the village and the townships. We're getting it out as to everybody.
Awesome.
So everyone will see that. Any other questions on that? All right, my final item is financial operations, and I handed this out to you all. This is, as of this morning, I got this from Bray, and they just give an update every quarter, and we're getting to the end here with things, as you all know, but just a planning design update and some the pictures that are going on in here. But we're very, very close. Flooring is pretty much the final thing that's going on in a lot of these places. In the pods at the middle school, that's being finalized, and our commons in the high school or cafeteria area, it's almost all done now, floored out. The graphic is going to be going on the servery this upcoming week, so we're excited to see that. Furniture is in our high school areas, but then there's still a lot of furniture that needs to be placed into the middle school area in the pods section. So that if you ever get a chance to go on the Bessie Ellen gym right now, there is still a ton of furniture in that zone. We're still getting, I think we're getting 5 semis of furniture tomorrow, and that's for the cafeteria. That's for some other areas in the buildings too. So they come in, that company sets it up, and they put it in the places that we want it. So, which is really great for our facility staff, that they don't have to put all that furniture together. You can see on I think the second page, images of some of the desks. They're all on cast irons, so they all move. And the reason for that is that flexibility in the classroom, so the teachers can move their desks around, put them in pods, put them in rows, put them in different placements. But there's 30 desks in that one room, and it's like a lot of room still within that area. So we're excited about that. Furniture is going up on, if you notice this upper deck here too, it's the last page that overlooks, it's on the top of the servery. There's going to be some unique furniture up there. I think there's up to 30 seats, but it's a place where staff can bring their classrooms in to just get a different experience every so often. It's not an area during the lunch hour where students come up and sit. It's really set for learning experiences within that frame as well. If you notice also on the last page, you see the second floor of the strength and conditioning, which is the wrestling area as well as the conditioning. That is the old mats. That's like from, I think, the 70s that we still had that. We have brand new mats for both those areas that we purchased this year too, to make that part of that referendum component as well. So that's exciting. The end of that area where after the mat, if you look closer to the windows, we're going to start moving some of that equipment that's on the balcony right now in the gym. And that will, some of our treadmills, other things will be in that area too, in that space. Moving forward. Just trying to think of anything else. Any questions that you have in terms of the process? Love to get you in there before. There's still a lot of cleaning and things that have to get done. Probably in a week or two, I think we're going to be closer to that. The guesstimated time they're going to start doing punch lists is August 1st, August 6th week. So we're going to see a lot of stuff changes in a little bit. Bleachers are going into the gym starting on next week. So, and that's like a week and a half experience, and then they're done with that. So
will everything be done by school?
Yes. The other update too is like the family consumer ed, the whole new workspaces. I just took a picture of that today. It's looking really great in there. All new cabinets, all new stations. Looks like a brand new room, and exciting for those students and Ms. Fox who gets to play in that area and learning for this year. So yes, John, everything is supposed to be done by the middle of now. Again, movement, but it looks, the things that have to get done are like baseboard stuff, final laydowns of flooring, and then, putting ceiling tiles in, but they're not far from the end with it all.
I'm wondering if because I know we have tentatively planned
12?
Yeah. To do goal setting.
Sure.
I'm wondering if everyone's open, if that's good.
We can do a little walkthrough that
Walk
yeah,
that, maybe
it'd be great.
That gives everyone 3-4 more weeks to finish it.
Like it. Yeah. Future agenda items, we got to look at Johnson bus transportation too. Costs or anything like that. What we've done over this past summer, and thanks to many amazing administrative assistants, is really regroup and relook at all of our bus riders, specifically to, what's happening within our area. So we're trying to get that all set and ready to go so that we can also make sure that our busing, our transportation is good, as well as we're set with financially too, because there might be less buses that we need based upon that whole activity, which we were really trying to do along the whole thing. We had a lot of open enrollment students who are taking buses that, if they're in Fond du Lac, they should not be taking the buses from the school district and from the village. So that some of those changes have gone on. We had some students who were open enrolled who are going to friends' houses and getting picked up at that location for that. And then again, you have to have an address within North Fond du Lac to actually take the buses. We did work with St. Mary Springs because they're over the 5-mile radius in terms of busing. And so those students will no longer be transported by North Fond du Lac in that process, as we've talked in here before, but they will be having to figure out their parent transportation. We're talking 3 students totally, or 3 families, total. And so I worked with the director of St. Mary Springs, and she's working through that as well. And so we had a really good conversation about that, and the cost for that alone, again, I I think it was like somewhere to the tune of $45,000 for just transportation of those three families for the year. So we're alleviating that. We're also alleviating the daycare Arts for Kids transportation in the morning and the afternoon that we were paying for. That was like over $89 a day, cost up to $16,000 for the year. Arts for Kids is now picking that up in terms of they're owning that, and their families are going to be responsible, I believe, for making sure that they meet that as well. And then welcome back plan. I'll be sharing a little bit more about that because it's coming up really shortly here too as well. Any other questions for my report at this point in time? Okay.
All right, well, we've got 5 items for new business to discuss and consider. The first one, I'm gonna bring in the one we just voted on to add to it. So we do have to consider approval for a new hire contract for Noah Kaufman. So what I'll do is look for if there are any other questions. Pause to see if there's that. If not, I look for a motion to approve a contract for Noah Kaufman, excuse me.
Second.
Then roll on that.
All right, Matthew?
Yes.
Humphrey?
Yes.
Hawk?
Yes.
Geckerman?
Yes.
Yeager, yes.
All right. Our next item on new business is consider approval for 2025 graduation day for May 21st, 2025 as a recommendation.
Yeah, and this is our recommendation so that we avoid, any kind of activities or loss, or students like having to move from those kind of areas. Wednesday is not a date where students are participating in anything for that following year, especially this year on a Thursday, there was a sectional track meet, and sectional track meets are almost impossible to say, okay, we're going to change this up, but we want to make sure that we avoid those as much as possible by moving that. We also worked with our fine arts department and scheduling, and it works the best for them as well. So like Anthony Rasmussen and Julia, those individuals planning out the rest of the schedule, it fit best on that Wednesday. So that's our recommendation for the graduation date next year.
Any questions on the recommendation?
Well, and you all know how I feel about this particular issue, so I'm not going to rehash any of that. Only to say, again, just to confirm my thoughts that for 28 years, Sunday worked best, and it went very well, and I don't really see any reason to change that. I know this year it involves Memorial Day weekend because we're getting out sooner. Waupun, Laconia, and I believe Springs all held their graduations on Memorial Day weekend, and I don't know that they had any troubles or any complaints about it, but any date's never gonna work for everybody, but Sunday seemed to be the least of the problems that we would hear as a board or whatever that, so that's all I have. I'm gonna vote no again, so.
Okay, any other questions or? All right, then we'll look for a motion to consider approval of the 2025 graduation date for May 21st, 2025. All right, then I'll second. Roll call.
Matthew?
Yes.
Geckerman?
Yes.
Hawk?
No.
Humphrey?
Yes.
Yeager, yes.
All right. Our next item is consider approval of second reading of board policy, volume 33, number 1, entitled federal policy that was shared in our packet and discussed at our last meeting. Open it up for any questions around those 2 items, or that 1 item. All right, then we'll look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
And then roll call.
Humphrey?
Yes.
Yeager, yes. Matthew? Geckerman?
Yes.
Hawk?
Yes.
All right, our third item is consider approval of school fees for 2024-2025 school year, which again was called out in our board packet. So any questions on the school fee layout or add any updates on or anything to add additionally?
No.
Okay.
Staying the same from the year prior,
Previous
so
year.
nothing has changed.
Okay, then look for a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. And roll call.
Hack,
Yes.
Ackerman,
Yes.
Humker,
Yes.
Mathew,
Yes.
Jaeger.
Yes.
All right, our last item on new business is consider approval of financial approach for operational referendum. So in our packet, are we looking, I guess I should ask which of the two options or?
Correct, correct. It's gonna be either that staggered.
Yep.
Or lump sum.
Right.
And it's more of, again, the approach versus the total cost right now, because Maria's still working that out in terms of like how much it will have to be, but she's getting very close to what it'll have to be. The other thing too is that the questions that itself will be developed by our attorneys. So that too will be taken care of moving forward. But it's more of what is that correct, the way that we want to move forward with that.
Just to make sure how this reads, though, it doesn't, am I gonna ask both? I guess the question is, because it reads as consider approval for financial approach, well, both are listed. Or just ask for,
Or do we have to make,
like, do we make that decision?
Yes,
Okay.
we made the selection and we,
so can we look at
the two. I think Rick's got on his.
So as we bring them up, the two options we had, both, so thank you for Maria to make the update, both had the 800,000 for 2024, 2025 now. And then one option had, the 3 million for 2025, 2026 school year through 2028, 2029 school year. And then the second option, again, 800,000 for 2024, 2025. And then the staggered approach of 2.5 million for 2025, 2026, 2.9 for 26, 27, 3.1 for 27, 28, and 3.5 for 28, 29. So once again, equals
3.1 should be 3.2.
3.2, okay.
Made a typo there.
Total equals the same, just different approach, whether it's staggered or evened out throughout that 4-year referendum.
And then if you could just go to.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Because I was always based on the last referendum. I could never get how the mill rate was really affected by that. And it turns out, what I was confused about at least was that state tax credit. So I took my property tax bill and the stuff that Maria and Mike Clark from Baird sent and just tried to calculate out how it worked. And it turns out that whatever we levy, about 20% of that is covered by the state tax credit. So when we say our mill rate is like say 8.5 or 8.6 from last year, it's really 20% less than that because
of the credit.
that credit. So, for example, if we took the one approach, I can't remember which one, I think it was the 3 million a year approach. The first year went up by like $200. Well, the homeowner's only gonna see 160 of that. So when we do our marketing materials, we should keep that in mind because it won't be a $200 impact, it'll be, or whatever route we choose.
in that first approach, it would maybe be that upfront, but then it would slowly reduce,
Right.
right? Whereas it would just be about the opposite in the other approach. It would
Gradually.
only be a little bit more stable, I would say, right? It would just kind of get to a number of them.
Right. And I'm just the way, and I don't know if it matters if it's going to the question.
Sure.
And I just put those questions on how the,
Oh, right down here. Yes, yeah.
based on how the last referendum was worded, so I know this has to go to a lawyer and everything, but it's just how it reads. You see the 3 million once
Right.
compared to, and I don't know if it matters to people or not, but it helped me to see it written out rather than just talking about it.
Well, I agree. I actually, I would generally be more in favor of ask for what you need, type of an approach. But when I saw the two questions, I'm like, you can't beat the simplicity of the first, question, right? I mean, it's just kind of, hey, it's pretty simple. This is what it's going to be. So it kind of made me rethink a little bit my position on it. I would still probably lean towards the ask for what you need, just because I think that my mind kind of aligns with that from a business standpoint. But I can see the value in the communication of that first one,
Yeah, so this was really helpful, so thanks for doing that. But I was torn between the two, because I see the simplicity of the 3 million, but it actually leaned me to the second option. And the reason why is asking what you said for what's truly needed during that time. And it also, even though you could in the other one too, gives us a good glimpse of truly where we're at without being inflated in the beginning. So to me, that holds us more fiscally responsible to the community and accountable for our result as it goes. So my preference right now is leaning towards that second option, and then looking for our lawyers to be able to articulate that in a way that makes sense to the community. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I agree with you, John. I think, there's a reason why stores don't charge $10 for something. They charge $9.98. There's a little, mental thing there, or whatever you want to call it. I like the step up too, because to me, it's more realistic, telling them we know a little bit more about what we need, and we're not just hitting you with one number every year. They're close. I don't know. I just favor doing the step up version, I guess. And what I was going to mention, Mike Clark, I believe, mentioned that too, that he would, I don't know what his exact wording was, but he seemed to favor doing the step up.
I would agree with the same, supporting the step up. I think just in general, people in general, the public, they understand that inflation goes up and things go up from year to year, so they can understand that there's gonna be an increase in that. That's just my thoughts. I would support the step up.
One other point on the step up is that it delays the bigger increase to taxes, so I don't know, I guess you, instead of like bringing the big increase or the larger increase up front, it just pushes it out further, which I think is a little bit more favorable.
Well, and there's some factors in here that we don't know about yet either. So if by chance that changes, where additional dollars are received from the district, it gives us an opportunity to not have that much impact later on if we see that from some aid that comes in from funding. Okay. So any other commentary or questions that we want to discuss as a board? I mean, ultimately, both get to the same dollar amount at the end. That's going to be said as well, but okay. So I guess then the item I would look for a motion to do is consider approval of the financial approach laid out on the second. Now the verbiage won't be the same, but it's the staggered approach for the operational referendum beginning in 2024-2025 school year.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right, then we'll have a roll call on that.
Yes.
Eager, yes. Geckerman,
Yes.
Humper,
Yes.
Matthew.
All right. That is our last item for new business, and that is the last item on the agenda. So the meeting is adjourned as of 7:59 p.m. Thank you.
Good night, Oriole Nation. Thank you.